All right, guys, are live with the Start Build Grow Show. We did miss last Wednesday. We were out of town in Anaheim, California for the IMG Elite Conference. Great job to the Burpees for setting that up. But we are back live here in Denver, Colorado with Tom Curtis out in Austin, Texas. Tom, thanks for joining us today, man.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm glad that Randy connected us. I know you have a great story to connect with us, but so you are you originally from Los Angeles then?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So you're from Los Angeles and you are now out in Austin, Texas?
Yeah, been out here a few years.
Okay,
I was
cool.
a California beach kid.
Yeah, you know how to surf?
Not anymore. I did.
So what are you doing for fun in Austin then? Are you a football fan, a college football fan, or what do you like to do?
Yeah, I'm a USC fan, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody in Austin, man.
Oh man, dude, that's all kind of issues stirring up right there, man.
Oh yeah,
I think that might be the greatest game of all time, though, in college football history. In my mind.
Oh yeah, 2005 Rose Bowl.
Ooh.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember where it was, what I was doing, everything. I mean, that is just gonna stick in your mind. Vince Young running in for that touchdown to win the game. Yeah, pretty amazing stuff.
It was epic. I mean, even though USC lost. I mean, you can't argue that was a fantastic game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was kind of the end of your guys' run there a little bit, which, you know, that run lasted for just about forever. I mean, I think you guys went to what, like 3 national championships in a row or something like that?
Something. I know. We need a scandal with Alabama now.
Yeah. Hey, it's bound to happen, right? If you look at sports, it's just the trend. At some point, it's just going to happen, right? It has to, just the way it works. But no, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you jumping on. Charles, what's up, man? I know we got to finally meet. He's just saying what's up. He's on here all the time. Really appreciate it. We got to meet in California last week, and I had a great time there learning from a bunch of great companies. But where we kind of start always with the show is discussing the story of entrepreneurship, roofing, and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to start from that level. How did you get into roofing?
Well, let me go back and let me tell you the story of how my dad got into roofing, because I wouldn't have gotten into roofing had my dad not gotten into it.
Oh, okay.
So my dad started his company in, I believe, April 1972. About
1972?
Yeah, a year before I was born.
Okay.
And so this is cool. I always love sharing this story. So he worked my dad had a pest control company for a little bit. And then then the state shut him down. He didn't have a license. And I think he had worked for another roofing company it had to have been like less than a week. It wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, I can go and I can do this myself, like a lot of guys do.
100%.
So he put an ad in the Penny Saver, which was a little classified ad magazine that comes in the mail. It was a $5 ad for, roof replacement. Well, anyway, he got a customer out of that. And the funny thing was, he didn't own a ladder. Let's see. He didn't own a hammer. He had a little, what was it back then? A Datsun pickup truck. Tiny little thing.
A Datsun,
right? Yeah. So he got the customer and then he bought the materials, but he had to drive 40 minutes to go and get the materials. And it was 40 minutes each way. He had to make 4 trips because of the, size of his truck. So anyway, get some materials to the job site, but how are you going to get those things up on the roof when you don't have a ladder? What roofer doesn't have a ladder? Well, so what he did was he loaded them up on the sidewall and then loaded them up onto the roof. And I forgot to tell you this. So he went to the drugstore and bought a 6-foot tape measure, but it was one of those tape measures that's a 1/4 inch wide to measure the roof. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So he's all set. He's got everything loaded. And then he waits for the homeowner to leave for work.
Yeah.
And then he goes, he looks around and he starts reading the instructions on the bundle of shingles. And that was the start of my dad's roofing empire. From there, fast forward to 1980. So he did a lot of residential. He, at one point there was one of the roofing yards, supply yards or whatever, told him that he was the one that bought more shingles than anybody else in the whole area, LA County. but that's because he was doing it really cheap. he was lowering his prices all the time. And anyway, but fast forward to 1980, he ended up a couple years before that started working with HOAs, condos, townhomes, and then in 1980 just went 100% working with HOAs. And that's how I ended up with in my own company serving HOAs 100%. It's a fantastic, underserved niche in the roofing industry.
100%. So your dad started the company in 1972. 8 years later, that's when he started to go all on board on that niche, on that strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, so when did you actually start working in the roofing industry then? I mean, did you just always kind of follow what your dad was doing and kind of knew that was the route you were going to go, or how did that kind of come about?
Man, those are good questions. As far as like, was that the route I knew I was going to go? I don't know if I knew that's where I was going to go, but I think I did my first roof when I was like 13, 14, something like that.
You guys hear that? Can anybody beat that first roof, 13 or 14 years old? If you can, put it in the comments. I don't know if you can.
I've seen some guys out there, man, 9, 10, 8, in diapers. For real, hey? I don't know. Yeah, so I helped my dad out here and there. After high school, I went and worked with him that summer. He had a big job in LA that was going on there, and with my dad, I was going to say what he ended up doing. He really not only serving the HOA niche, but he really specialized in this one area. Back in the 80s and 90s. Lots of condo and HOA or townhome HOAs went through litigation against the original developers and contractors that built the places because of construction defects. It would rain, these places would leak like a sieve. And so they would hire my dad to be the expert witness in the litigation to explain and show why these defects happened. And then, of course, he'd help them win the settlement. And then they would hire him to go in and fix all the problems. And he really built up quite an empire doing that. And so right out of high school, I went and worked on one of those jobs with him. And then my first, I kind of feel like I started two different roofing businesses. One to fund a single guy lifestyle, and then one for real when I got married. The first time I started was I did wood shake roof, like tune-ups, maintenance, and repairs, because in the LA area at that time, this was in the 90s, there's a lot of wood shake roofs out there, or there were at the time, but they were coming up on 20, 25, 30 years old, and they really needed a lot of work. So I did really well working just on wood shake roofs. And then when I got started for real, I just went right into HOAs.
So the reason why you got into HOAs, was it pretty much just the business standpoint then? Was it that you realized what the opportunity was there to grow your business significantly using that strategy, or what was it that made you do that? Was it the experience that you already had in the past with it, or what?
It was the advice of my dad a lot, explaining, why that's more beneficial to do it. It was a lot easier in his mind and in my mind. And I guess, at that time like I said, I was doing it for real now. I had wife and kids and
priorities.
Yeah. And just really wanted to go at it. I liked the success that I saw that he had, and wanted to kind of duplicate that for myself.
Cool, man. So, we had some comments actually from people talking about their first roof. So we got a couple pretty good answers here. Let's see what we got. Charles, it looks like his daughter actually was throwing shingles at 9 years old.
That's awesome.
Chris, I was 10 with my dad in my first roof, few here, and then over the years till 18, then went full time. Very cool. Then Bernie worked on his first roof at 14 years old. So some pretty cool stories right there. A lot of stuff intertwined with the family, which is pretty cool. But let's get into, how the business was going then for you before we dive into HOA and how people can actually use that to grow their business and using that niche to take their business to the next level. How were the first few years? I mean, did it help that you kind of had, your dad and whatnot working that for the strategy side, or did you have any bumps in the road, any failures in the beginning stages that were like, man, running a business is pretty tough, or what was your story there?
Oh man, I made $8 million my first 6 hours in the business because my dad was great at it. I wish. No, you know what? Even though my dad was great at it, I still had to stumble myself. For instance, I'll share this story.
Yeah.
I ended up getting really good and mastering pitching jobs at the HOA board meetings.
Okay.
I love it. If I could pick one thing I loved the most, it was that. But I had to suck at it for a while to get good at it. And the first one I did, I was pitching an $80,000 repair job. It was roughly 60, 70 unit condo or townhome complex. Needed a bunch of work done on their tile roofs. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and do this presentation at their board meeting. Now, I put together a slide presentation with real slides. I don't know if anybody remembers those real slides are about 1.5 inch, 2 inch square slides. You got to go and take an actual camera that used film, put special film in the camera to get slides developed. You had to take them and go get them developed. So I did that. I got them developed. I borrowed my dad's Kodak slide carousel. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
A projector, right?
Yeah.
So you had to drop the slides in the sequence that you wanted. Did that, man. I'm telling you, I took 1 million photos. I went and I did all this stuff. Thought I was prepared. I brought my screen. So I'm setting up my presentation in this living room, and there's all the board members of that place are there, and setting up. And then I crank up that projector, and it didn't turn on.
Oh no, man!
Yeah. Oh. I don't know if the board of directors and the property manager could tell, but yeah. I was showering in my own sweat underneath my shirt. So I'm like a duck on the water, right? A duck going along the water looks very smooth and graceful, but underneath the feet are just going like crazy. I was the duck inside. I'm the duck freaking out, and
first off, well, 1 second. If you've been there, put it in the comments. If you ever had a freak out as an entrepreneur where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose it, put it in the comments. Let us know. But yeah, keep going, Tom.
Yeah, if you haven't, it's coming.
It's coming for sure. I've been there too.
Yeah. So I'm fiddling with this projector and sweating bullets, and I glance over at the board while I'm doing it. And these people, like in my own mind anyway, I'm not sure this was reality, but in my own mind, these people are looking at me like they got pitchforks and torches, wanting to just run me out of town like an angry mob. And oh my gosh, the energy in that room was just horrible. Yeah. So anyway, so what did I do next? Well, naturally, I just tried to describe what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And they just looked lost and confused. And by the way, it's going to be $80,000. And they pretty much laughed at me. And interestingly enough, I continued to do individual repairs there instead of one big job. But that was the first place that asked me, it was the only time a client ever asked me to lower my prices. And of course, I obliged.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right? Like a smart businessman, I said, of course I'll lower my price.
What do you want it for?
Right? Horrible. Oh gosh. I did it. Well, again, I was hungry and I had to feed my family as well. Yeah. So I said fine. But I remember when I agreed to that, I'm just like, oh, what did I just do? I hate myself.
Oh, I feel you on that, man.
But that was the first client I ever fired, and that felt amazing.
That does feel good. That does feel good, man. Yeah. It's funny. You were talking about the whole situation where your projector wouldn't turn on, right? And it reminds me of a story. I did inside sales for a tech company for a little bit, and I was my first opportunity to finally get a client. I felt really good about the situation. And it was one of those where you do like a demo, you do like a screen share, so you put up your deck or whatever that you're showing them. And I get through the whole thing. I go for the close, and she goes, "Just to let you know, your script was what you were showing me the entire time. So I was showing her the script, not the deck, the entire time. But I was able to follow up with her, and I did close her, and she was one of my first customers. So, so you never know, like you never know, man. But
yeah,
awesome.
Let me
story.
make a quick point. Is that afterward, okay, I leave that meeting, and I just felt destroyed.
Yeah,
I immediately went to victim mode, and I think that's important because it's not important to go to victim mode, but it's important to realize that if you go to victim mode, you're not going to be creative. You're not going to think, well, what do I need to do next time? Now, I didn't stay there very long, but I was pretty demolished and thinking, I walked away from that meeting. I'm driving home. I'm like, I am never putting myself in that position again. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I got over that, and I sucked a few more times. Yeah. But then I got good. So.
I think that's a huge thing to bring up, actually, is the whole victimized thing, right? And, when you're struggling in business, you're a new entrepreneur or whatever it might be, or you have a new sales job and you're really not doing very well. It's easy to get in that state where you feel just completely victimized and that the world is going against you. And, it's not your fault. It's just the world does not want me to win. And that will get you nowhere, right? So, make sure that you are able to kind of get out of that as quick as possible and pretty much show up to the next meeting with a short memory and fresh and like that never happened. But, so let's dive now into why should people go with the HOA strategy?
Good question. And let me apologize real quick. If I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I can't connect with a green dot at the top of my laptop. I can.
No, you're looking perfect. Dude, you're perfect right now. You got the mic just a little bit in there right now. You're solid, man.
All right, good. Because I'm looking at you, but no, you're below the camera. But anyway, quick drink of water. One sec.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me tell you an advantage of working with HOAs that I found. My dad found this as well, and he really hammered this into me early on. It's the difference between loose money and tight money. So an example of tight money would be income property, investment property, like apartment buildings, things like that, where it's owned by an investor or a group of investors. And that's property that's making them money, cash flow. They're getting income from it, right? Mm-hmm. And when that's the case, and it comes time for roofing work, repairs, replacement, maintenance, whatever it is, they're a little more tight-fisted because that's money coming out of their pocket, out of their bank account. And when that happens, people have a little more personal relationship with their money that way. It's hard-earned and things like that. Same thing if you're working with just individual homeowners and they're paying out of pocket, out of their own account. To write a check like that, they're spending the money that they worked for. And so that's why I like to say it's tight money. So with HOAs, what generally happens when is the residents, say in condos or townhome HOAs, they're all paying monthly dues into like a general fund, and then there's a reserve funds and stuff. Well, that money is there to maintain the HOA, take care of things like the landscaping and, driveway resurfacing, and of course, roofs and a lot of times anything that leaks when it rains. So when it comes time to writing a check and paying for that kind of maintenance and taking care of the HOA, there's not this emotional attachment where, as opposed to like a homeowner or an investor, there's not an emotional attachment to that money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the board of directors, they're paying into that fund as well. They're paying their dues, but they're not writing that check out of their very own bank account. It's coming out of the bank account of the HOA. So that's one advantage of working with HOAs. But one other one, and this one's probably more important, it's the relationships. The bottom line and the foundation of being successful with HOAs, especially in the beginning, is realizing you're building long-term relationships, and long-term relationships mean long-term income. So it's a win-win situation. So the advantage there is like you're building these long-term relationships. You're not going in as a closer and having to just close somebody on one job, where you're building a relationship with, like, say, even just one property manager. That can lead to working on hundreds or even thousands of like condo units, which would be the equivalent of like you'd have to go out and knock on doors and talk to each individual homeowner if you were just working residential. That makes sense?
What percentage of I mean, this is a question you might not know, but what percentage of roofing companies do you think are putting enough focus on HOA right now?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
From my experience, well, I haven't come across anybody else that's not in my dad's lineage, roofing lineage, his roofing family tree.
So you're in that niche, yeah.
Anybody outside of that, I haven't met anybody that's just straight 100% HOA. But the ones that are working with HOAs, it's a much smaller percentage. There's a lot that still aren't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a solid figure on that.
Yeah, no, and I kind of figured that'd be the chances there. But when I was on the phone with Randy, so guys, Randy's not here because I don't know what award it was, but I mean, the whole family is very impressive in the business, business field. His sister is getting some kind of award for being one of the most impactful businesswomen out there. So he's at that award ceremony right now, so you can be with us. But he gave me a call before, and he was kind of talking a little bit about Tom and stuff like that and his specialty in the HOA. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get Elite more involved in that sector as well. So if you're taking a really well-established company, right, what are you going to do with a well-established company that's trying to get more involved in the HOA? What's their first step to kind of get more involved?
Great question. I was talking to Randy, and he's got a well-established company. I would say that the important thing is to be able to have somebody that can be in charge of the HOA niche for the business. Okay. Not just like this guy's going to handle the HOA stuff, but he's also going to handle over the commercial stuff, and he's also going to be doing this. If you can have somebody that's 100% in, it's more likely that company's going to have success with the HOAs, because you want to have that, because again, you're building those relationships and you have to maintain them. Yeah. You have to keep, appearing here and appearing there. And, you want to be talking with the management companies as often as possible, and just to keep that relationship going, especially in the beginning. That cliche phrase we hear all the time, but people do business with those they know, like, and trust. 100%. And that happens a lot because of frequency of meeting with people. Right. That's a way to build that trust, and that getting people to be comfortable with you. So having somebody dedicated, for sure.
So I think I 100% agree with that, with having somebody that's dedicated, because always they're spread way too thin, right? It's not as much of a priority, and then you're not building those relationships. And just like you're saying, people buy from the people that they like, know, and trust. No matter what industry you're in, it's literally that it's that simple, as long as you're able to execute on your services, right? If you hire somebody, though, the full-time HOA, right? Perfect. That's checkpoint one. Now you have that person that's dedicated. What is their days looking like? What are you doing with this person to make sure that they're successful?
I would tell them, make a list of all the management companies that manage HOAs in your area. Now there's, I built my entire business through a membership of in a national organization that has chapters, local chapters in most states and pretty much every major city. And so I joined, as soon as I started my company, working with HOAs, I joined that local chapter, and it's Community Associations Institute.
Community Associations Institute,
or CAI for short. If you can just Google that. But I joined that local chapter. They have monthly luncheons. They have a lot of different events that happen in those local chapters. So there's monthly luncheons. The one I belong to had like these manager forums, manager luncheons, where the property managers would all get together. There's opportunities to sponsor all of those events. And again, that's getting you in front of those managers and board members. So the people that belong to those local chapters, again, are property managers, the HOAs themselves, so meaning the board members, and vendors like roofers, painters, and such. So, oh, wait 1 sec. Bernie's question. Let's table that, because I just looked over and I want to answer that.
Oh yeah.
But Community Associations Institute, I mean, it's a huge opportunity. And from my experience, the roofers that do belong to it, they don't work it. They're not involved. When I joined up, there were a handful of roofers. I never saw a single one of them at any event.
They never showed up.
Yeah, they have, and then they have the yearly annual trade expos. You know, you can have a table there and a booth display and all that. But big opportunity for me really happened when I got invited to speak at one of these luncheons. This is one of my favorite stories. Because what's really great about those luncheons is they have the worst speakers, the worst. Okay. And it's just people that aren't experienced. They're just
right.
They just don't know what they're doing. I'm not jabbing at those people. They just don't know any better. So I got invited to speak, and I was like, okay, well, I can't get up there and speak and just talk roofing. Okay, I'm going to be boring like all these other people, but I got to get their attention. And so I realized I got to do a pattern interrupt, right? I got to interrupt the patterns of being used to boring speakers. So I did a little slide presentation. The topic was winterizing your community. So I put together some photos of what you need to do to, take care of your roofs and prevent leaks and stuff like that. But the first slide I put up there, okay, was a photo of a duck on the water. And I said, the first principle of roofing is this: everything above needs to overlap everything below. Okay. But so I put the image up there, but as I started talking from the very first word, I started putting on this bright yellow rain poncho. Yeah. Of course, that gets everybody's attention because nobody's done that before.
Right.
And I can tell everyone's wondering, like, what is this guy doing?
What the hell's going on?
So as soon as I finished saying what that principle is, okay, I turned around, my back's to the audience, and I start tucking the rain poncho into my jeans. And then I turned around, I said, now the opposite of that principle is like tucking your raincoat in your pants. And then I took 2 bottles of water and I poured them down my chest and completely wet myself on stage on purpose. And
that will do it.
After that, I proceeded to show my photos. I don't think anybody remembers those. And I mean, they loved it. And, the cool thing about that, though, is I ended up getting over $750,000 of work from that speech.
$750,000 from wetting yourself.
Yeah. That was big repair jobs from that.
But look at that. I mean, it just shows, everybody is so focused on selling their services, what they're doing and whatnot. But like, really, you just got to grab attention and be unique. And if you're able to come up with an idea like that, it might sound strange, or it might be, you might feel weird doing something like that. But man, if it works like that and you grab their attention, you can, boom, $750,000 later. Well done, man. That's awesome.
It was awesome. And people still talk about it now. That was in 2004.
So be memorable. Be memorable. Yeah. But all right. So do you want to dive into Bernie's question real quick?
Yeah. Let me go back here real quick.
Cool.
Got it right here.
I'll say it too, so we can kind of let the audience know as well. So Bernie says, I always run into 3-bid objection with HOA. How do you overcome that?
Okay. There's very excellent question, Bernie, by the way. There's ways to do that. And again, I'm always going to hammer relationships. And what happens when what you want, the mindset you want to have when you're building these relationships with the property managers and the board members is you want to go at this as being their trusted advisor. I learned that term from Jay Abraham, really well-known marketing and business development guru out there. You want to be and act as their trusted advisor, all things roofing and all that stuff. When you go at it with that mindset and that energy, and that you're building this relationship and you want to, to care for them and take care of the needs that they have. And remember, a property manager, an HOA property manager's job, I mean, I couldn't do it. I think it sucks because they're dealing with bad news all the time. They got homeowners calling and hammering on them all the time. They got board members with expectations and hammering on them as well. And the property managers want to look good to their board members. They really do. And you have a huge opportunity to help them do that by being this trusted advisor. Okay. So number one is establishing yourself in that relationship and taking care of those managers and those board members. That's really going to get you in solid. From there, it's okay. So The reason they want 3 bids is because they haven't had anybody that dazzles them and takes care of them, like I just said. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not going to believe this, okay? And you're probably going to want to run me out of town. But my last 8 years in business, I didn't bid against anybody else.
The last 8 years.
The last 8 years. Now, my dad, he hasn't bid against anybody else in like 25 years. Okay.
How good does that sound?
Completely unbelievable. I know. But the reason is because it's the relationship. You have to be good at creating, building, and maintaining those relationships and taking care of them as their trusted advisor. Now, why did we not bid against anybody else? Because we took care of them. It didn't make sense for them to go get bids from anyone else. They knew we were going to do awesome work. We're easy to do business with. We take care of them. We're straightforward with them, honest, all those things, right? That we should be. And, you know, in California, anyway, it's like the law, they've got to go and get 3 bids. They would break the rules just to keep working with us, because otherwise it was a waste of time to go get more bids when they were going to pick ours anyway. Now, something that can really, really help you in the HOA niche. Okay. Now, these are like the typical estimates that most everyone's using. Okay. And that's fine. But it's like a 1-page line item estimate. It kind of looks like a receipt, right? The only issue with that is when you're trying to sell jobs and trying to stand out and be different, is that everyone else's looks like that. And it doesn't explain the what, the how, and the why. And that's what people need to know, especially in HOAs, to make the right decision. So what we use is something like that, where it's a detailed proposal. There's architectural drawings that explain the what, the how, and the why. This is 10 pages long.
10 pages?
Yeah.
What is the normal one? How many pages is the normal one that people usually use?
A lot of the times it's just 1 page.
It's just 1 page.
I mean, you can still use this. This is fine. Have the client sign that. Let them put the signature on that. But to help sell the job, you've really got to help. You want to lock your customer's mind into your proposal. And we also did that with taking the right photos. Now, I know everyone's taking photos and they got drones and doing all this fancy stuff out there. But when it's done in a way where it tells a story and it shows the what, the how, and the why of what you're going to do, you use those photos together with a proposal like this. It locks the client's mind into that proposal and into you, and it makes it so much easier for them to make a decision to work with you.
To make it easy on them, make their life easier, right? Okay, so we actually have a couple more questions here that I want to make sure
Bernie, I hope that answered your question. And if not, we can connect another time for sure.
Yeah, Bernie, if you need any other information regarding the question too, feel free to reach out. He'll make sure that he helps you out. So we have Aaron now says, do you wine and dine property managers or just deliver your value through service? Good question.
Never wine and dine.
Never wine and dine, really?
I will tell you this right now. I never took him out to lunch. I never did any of that stuff. I know somebody that does, and he's built quite an amazing operation serving HOAs. It's a guy that used to work for my dad. Now he's done that. It doesn't mean you can't. I just didn't. I never needed to, because really, they don't want that. They want their job to be easier. Again, the property manager wants to look good to their board members. A president of the board wants to look good to the other board members, and the other board members want to look good to everyone else. We all want that, right?
Right.
So there was just never this need for me to like, oh, I've got to do this, this, and this. I kind of thought about it a few times, but I was like, I'll tell you, I did bring lunch into the offices of the management companies a few times, and that was always great. But again, if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have lost any business over it. But that's a good question, Aaron.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought you would for sure. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then Charles had a follow-up question that you said you said you didn't have to bid against anybody for 8 straight years. So he said, how many roofing contractors do you think you pissed off in the last 8 years? I thought that was kind of funny. But all right. So James says let's see here. Did you do much insurance work?
No, not in LA. Nothing happens in LA. We get an earthquake once in a while. But no, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing insurance work or retail, it doesn't matter, because the fundamentals are the same. Because when you get good at the relationships and knowing how to speak, I don't want to say correctly. It kind of, I don't want them to misunderstand what I mean, but you learn how to communicate with them and in a way that makes sense. And you realize that the property managers have this pain that they're in. Everybody does. We all have a present pain that we're experiencing. I love this quote. Okay. Listen to this quote real quick. I share this quote probably more than any other. It's that most people don't care if they go to heaven. They just don't want to go to hell. And what that means is we're all experiencing some kind of hell that we would rather get out of right now rather than get to heaven. We're not so focused on heaven, but we'd rather really get out of that hell that we're in. And property managers and board members are no different than the rest of us. They're experiencing present pain. Let me give you one for instance on that. And this is how you can really dazzle a property manager. Okay. So let's say the property manager calls a roofing contractor. Okay. This scenario, let's say they call a roofing contractor because they got a leak. Okay. There's a condo unit that a homeowner called. They've got a roof leak. They need somebody to go out and take care of it. Okay. Here's what happens too often. And this just kills things. Okay. Is that homeowner. Okay. Now imagine this though. When the homeowner calls that property manager, are they calling to report good news? No, they've got a roof leak. Nobody is happy about a roof leak. And nobody ever calls the property manager trying to wish them well and say, hey, I was just calling thinking about you.
Nope.
Okay. Now imagine nobody calls that homeowner, makes an appointment to come and see that leak. That homeowner then calls again. If they weren't happy before, they're pissed now.
Now they're real angry.
Okay. And if the property manager wasn't really enjoying the first conversation, it's really weighing on them the second time. Now you have this huge opportunity to make the property manager's job so much easier by calling that homeowner right away. And with our technology now, you can get an email, text, phone call, whatever, and immediately call that homeowner, make an appointment. Now, here's where really this is solid for you right here. Then you contact the property manager, whether you call them or text or email, whatever, and let them know, hey, just so you know, I have an appointment with so-and-so on this date and time. When the property manager sees that, you have no idea the weight that comes off of their shoulders, because you have just made their job easier and they are going to love working with you. That's the kind of thing that will get you in and become the only bidder. It's that kind of thing.
So we had, let's see here. We had a question.
Another one from Bernie. Perfect question.
So actually, yeah, do you want to hit that? So did you see the one about kickbacks too? We had one who says, what do you do when the project manager wants a kickback from the insurance claim? And then James followed up, says, I've seen big kickbacks given in the insurance game to include roof overs to cover deductibles.
I never had a property manager asking for a kickback. And again, I didn't do insurance work. But I remember back in the day, my dad, he told me a story about a property manager that wanted a kickback from repairs. So he was giving my dad repairs to do, and he wanted a kickback. And my dad told him, my dad was very good at being firm with people, and told him under no uncertain terms that you try to pull this with me, you're going to end up in jail. And he didn't work with that guy anymore.
And that was the end of that right there, right?
That my advice on that, and I'm not a lawyer, and I did not play a lawyer on TV, but would be, if you've got a property manager or anybody that's playing shady like that, walk away.
Get out of there.
It's not worth it, and you don't need to work with people like that. There are plenty out there that are willing to work with you the right way.
You know, and you were kind of talking about making sure that you're speaking the right way and stuff like that. You're kind of careful about the way you're the way you said it because you want to make sure it came off the right way. So Francisco put in a little joke just to mess with you. He said, "Should I keep my Mexican accent?" LOL. I thought that was kind of funny.
I love Francisco. He keeps the humor there, man. I love it. Absolutely. Right? The question is yes.
Keep it.
Or the answer is yes.
Keep it, man.
Yeah.
All right. So Bernie's question, let's see here. He says, what's your best strategy to get in the door for the first time with different HOAs, or are you running through property management companies?
Okay. So again, go back to my, when I was talking about joining CAI, Community Associations Institute, but let's pretend like you don't have that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one thing that worked for both my dad and I is find HOAs that you want to work with. When you're driving around town, around city now, I want your eyes to be open. Get those blinders off and start paying attention to these big like condo and townhome HOAs. And then the way to tell if it's apartments or HOAs is a lot of time with the HOAs, you'll see a for sale sign. See a for sale sign out on a property that looks like an apartment. It's most likely an HOA because the individual owner of that unit is selling their condo or their townhome. Okay, so. Mm-hmm. Find a handful of those that you think would be a good moneymaker for you that you could do some work at. Then drive into the complex. And when you see people out in their front yard or walking, just ask them, hey, do you know where any of the board members live? I'm a roofing contractor and I had a question about the roofs. And most of the time you'll get people that'll either know or they won't know. So they'll either know where the board members are and point you in the right direction. If they don't, just ask, well, do you know who the management company is that manages the HOA? And most of them will know. They'll at least have a name. Sometimes they'll even go and get you the phone number. So that's one way. So, and then if you get the address and the location of a board member, go knock on the door, bring a card. Don't bring a brochure. I never had brochures, by the way. I never had them. I never did traditional marketing or advertising, no brochures. And this is going to make you chuckle. Like the last 4 or 5 years, I didn't have business cards.
You didn't have business cards even?
No. By that time, I had established clients. Anybody that, wanted to work with me knew where to find me. One reason I stopped getting business cards printed is because like homeowners, like of the individual units would ask me for a card. And I didn't want to give them to them because I didn't want those homeowners calling me.
Yeah, as they're calling you directly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, though, to have business cards. Don't get me wrong. I was just letting you know. And my dad hasn't had business cards in, I don't know, maybe 20 years.
So Tom's advice is just to get rid of everything. No cards, no nothing.
Okay, but let me get back to, got off on a tangent. Let me get back to, you go to the board member's house, just knock on the door, just let them know who you are. Say, hey, I'm a roofing contractor and, I'd really like to work at this place. This is a great place. I can do some good here. Here's my card. Just want to let you know, I'm available. Don't try to sell them anything. Don't try to close them on anything. One thing is you can't go at this with a closer persona. Okay. Now I get that being a closer is a big thing, right? And when you're trying to sell roofs to residential and you're knocking doors and stuff like that, I know that being a closer is effective. But in the HOA niche, having that closer mindset and persona, it's not going to work because you're not closing anything. You're opening relationships and you want to keep those relationships open-ended. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when you go, if you're talking to a board member at the HOA, just be yourself, be natural. Okay, let that good-natured person that's in there, let that come out. You don't be intimidating. You don't want to piss them off or anything. And just give them your card and just tell them, hey, I'd really like to work on this place. And just leave it at that. Then go to the management company and ask who manages that HOA and talk to the property manager and say, hey, I was just at the such and such HOA and I met so-and-so on the board. And I just thought I'd come here and introduce myself, give you my card. And another thing that would be amazing is bring them something, not a brochure, because guess what? They don't care about your brochure.
They're not going to read it, right?
Just because people ask for your website or a brochure or something, it doesn't mean they want it. They're just programmed to ask for it. They don't care. what they care about is being taken care of. They want that trusted advisor and their job to be easier. So take some of your material, like a proposal or a descriptive invoice or something that shows that you're different and that you can make it easy for them to do business with you and easy for them to make a decision. It's that kind of thing that goes a long way. So don't go to the property manager trying to close them on anything. Just realize you're going to have to follow up. Follow up is key. Okay. The fortune's in the follow up. It's no different than any other industry. Same thing with HOAs. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that was great. Let's see here. I think we got another question too from Aaron. Have you ever been successful in getting HOA's approval against the property manager's approval?
Not sure I'm understanding the question exactly. So
Aaron, let's do this. Yeah,
let's
do this.
Rephrase that a little bit.
Yeah, Aaron, do us a favor, man. Just rephrase that for us, and we'll get back to it. And let's jump into what Blake says here. It works great to build a personal relationship and/or social media platforms, then wait for the storm and capitalize on the relational investment. Love the closer versus problem solver mentality.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, very good, Blake. You're on the right track.
So, how long do you think it usually takes for, if you're investing in one solo person to go in and be like, this is your HOA person for the company? Obviously that's an investment, right? So how long does it usually take for you to start seeing results, and how long does it take to actually start seeing that pay off for you, that investment?
For me, I got my first HOA client, I think within a month or two after joining CAI.
Month or two, hey?
Yeah, it was just a little one. It was just a small little job, but I was stoked. I didn't care. I think I made $8,000. It was just some repairs. Nice. Or it was just a maintenance job on like 10 units.
And what was it again? What was CAI you said? What was it?
Yeah, Community Associations Institute. Sorry, I always call it CAI because that's what everyone else calls it.
Right. I'm just putting in the comments. That way people can make sure they're looking back at it.
Associations. Yeah. I hope, let's see. I hope.
What about struggles? So, I mean, what areas or what problems are you seeing people have? You know what I mean? Because obviously there's an opportunity for a lot of companies to capitalize on this. What issues are people having that you see or recognize a lot in roofing contractors that they're just missing the boat on, and it's costing them a lot of opportunity in terms of developing more revenue and everything like that?
Definitely going in as a closer. Okay.
Closer.
As a slick salesman. Okay. It's just going to make people mad. It's going to turn people off. Oh, here's a big one. Here is a big one. You gotta not do. And if you're in the habit of doing this, cut it out because it's not working. Okay. So like, let's take Randy. Okay. If I'm talking to a group of people and they know who Randy is and Randy Brothers, and I just start trashing on Randy, and I'm like, no, you need to not Hell Island. Here's Heaven Island. Okay. Well, just because people are in Hell Island, let's say they're using a roofer that's not that great, but you don't want to go in and try to set fire to the island because that's what they're familiar with and sort of comfortable with at the moment. Okay. Don't go in there trashing anybody and burning their Hell Island on them. It's bad juju, bad vibes, and bad tactics. And it's not going to work to your overall strategy of building that relationship. Yep. I never trashed another contractor. If anything, I would say, if I saw something that was weird or maybe, and I always got like other proposals, if I went into a new HOA that I hadn't worked with, sometimes the property manager would give me the bid that another contractor was using. I'd look at it, and of course I'd see things that were wrong and horrible, but I would never say anything to trash that person. I would say, I see what they're trying to do here. Let me explain a way that's going to work better for you guys. I didn't have to trash anybody. Yep. If you are doing that, get out of that habit. It's never necessary. And it just, it makes them feel horrible. You might as well just build a wall right in front of them and walk away.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being the case. Well, okay, so as we kind of come to a close here, Tom, I really appreciate you jumping on, man. This was some great information. What's the easiest way for people to connect with you if they have more questions? Is it Facebook or what's the best way?
Yeah, come join my Facebook group.
Okay.
It's HOA Talk for roofing contractors.
HOA Talk.
And we just focus on HOA stuff. I'm dropping content in there every day, and we're getting a good group going there.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to take the link of the group and I'm going to throw it in the comments. So if you guys want to connect more with Tom, if you guys have more questions or you guys are looking for more content regarding the subject matter of HOA, just click in on the link in the comments and just join the group. That's going to be the best way.
Let me tell them this. Be sure to, I have entry questions. I want to make sure everyone's there to talk about HOAs and be respectful and all that. But the first one is to leave your email address, because I have a couple of cool little tools to send you that'll help you get started on the right track. Very cool.
Very cool. All right. So yeah, guys, make sure you join that group. And this will be the last question before we kind of close it down here. We got another great question for Bernie. Bernie, thanks for all the engagement. Really do appreciate it. How do you work communication to all the individuals within the HOA?
Let's see. I'm wondering what you're meaning by that, Bernie. Like, are you talking about like all of the individual homeowners? If you are, I never communicated with all the individual homeowners. Now, you might be talking about an HOA that has houses. I always stayed away from that, because even though it's an HOA, I'd still be dealing with individual homeowners, and I didn't want to do that. I always wanted to leverage the relationship with the property managers and work with like condo and townhome HOAs, because most of the time it seemed the HOAs cover the roof expenses, but with house HOAs, that's not the case.
Got it.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. And Bernie, man, this seems like you guys could be doing a great job connecting too. So make sure you join that group. I think you guys could get a lot of value from each other. And hey, Todd, man, he just said great content as usual. Nick, Todd, awesome that we finally got to meet Todd out in California last week too at the IMG Elite. He's doing an awesome job out here in Colorado growing his business. But he's actually been watching the show. This is episode, I think, 45 now. So he's been watching it since the very beginning, man. So we really, really do appreciate the engagement, man, and keep growing the business. Wishing the best of luck for you, man. But yeah, hey, thank you so much for jumping on, Tom. We really do appreciate it, guys. And like I said, I believe this is episode 45. I'm almost positive. But you guys have a great day. If there's any topics you guys are trying to learn more about, we're building out our schedule for 2019 right now with some great people. So let us know. We'll make sure that we take that feedback and we try to get those people on here. So thank you so much. And Tom, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks. This was awesome. See you later, everyone.